The Senate barely passes the big beautiful bill, and the House begins its final debate. Alligator Alcatraz garners hyperbolic outrage, and the University of Pennsylvania caves to the Trump administration on Title IX. I'm Tony Kinnett, host of the Daily Signal's Tony Kinnett Cast, syndicated nationally at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. This is the Daily Signal's top news in 10. After weeks of intense negotiations, the United States Senate has just barely passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, a 10-year fiscal package that would serve as the vehicle for fulfilling President Donald Trump's campaign promises on both tax cuts and border security. This is according to Daily Signal's journalism fellow George Caldwell. Despite the intra-party debates on overall deficit levels, healthcare reform, and how to undo former President Joe Biden's environmental policies, Republicans were ultimately able to find a consensus under the leadership of newly minted Senate Majority Leader John Thune. The bill narrowly passed in the Senate with a margin of 51-50. Vice President J.D. Vance is the one who cast the tie-breaking vote. 3 Republican senators voted no on the measure. These included Senators Rand Paul of Kentucky, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, and Susan Collins of Maine. Here's President Trump after learning the big beautiful bill had passed during his trip in Florida.
The bill is now passed in the Senate, but we are already hearing from some Republicans in the House who say they cannot get on board with the changes that were made to the bill in the Senate. What is your message to those holdouts?
Well, I just heard that about the Senate, and the bill just passed, and it tells you there's something for everyone. I mean, it's a great bill. There is something for everyone, and I think it's going to go very nicely in the House. Actually, I think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate.
A bevy of Republicans are already putting forward all kinds of amendments here, there, and everywhere for the big, beautiful bill. In a statement, House Speaker Mike Johnson said, quote, "The House will work quickly to pass the one big, beautiful bill that enacts President Trump's full America First agenda by the 4th of July. Whether or not that can be done remains to be seen." We sat down with Representative Keith Self of Texas' 3rd Congressional District to talk a little bit more about what we expect the House to do now that it has the big, beautiful bill back in its chambers. Check it out.
I think the Rules Committee will go into to committee hearing immediately, so we could be voting on this maybe tomorrow. So we'll see. But what I expect, if what we're hearing is correct, the Senate will be hard-pressed to reach the framework that the House sent over to them. Look, Speaker Mike Johnson has been very clear that the Senate should not send us a materially different bill than what we sent to them. If they do, that very narrow margin in the House is probably suspect. So we're going to wait to see exactly what's in it, what the last text is, and then we'll make our decisions.
Democrats in the House and Senate are responding to this as flamboyantly as they ever do. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat senator of Connecticut, said this fills him with emotional rage.
I am shaking with fury over what just happened. That's the most monstrous piece of legislation I've ever voted on in my time in Congress. What do those Republican senators go back and tell their constituents that they did? In the final speech, the only thing they mentioned was the money for the border. But what more can they do? They've already militarized the border. They've already created an immigration police state. They didn't mention anything about the fact this bill kicks 17 million people off of their health care. There are going to be thousands of people who die in this country because they lose their access to health care. There'll be tens of thousands of other lives that are needlessly destroyed. This is the biggest cut in child nutrition in the history of the country, I think. There are going to be moms and dads who literally watch their children go hungry. And why? Because they wanted to pad the pockets of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago friends. That's the only reason that they are throwing people off of health care, that they are rendering little children hungry so that some billionaire can get an extra $200,000 tax cut.
Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat senator from Massachusetts, got out her phone to record a tear-filled, emotional rant in her car.
Leaving the Senate now, at the end of the vote, when the Republicans won, they cheered. They cheered over taking away health care from around 17 million people. They cheered over giving huge tax breaks to a handful of billionaires. They cheered over running up the national debt by another $3.5 trillion. You know, This bill, it's bad. It's bad economically. It's bad morally. This bill is just wrong. But we stay in the fight. We stay in the fight. We stay in the fight. And we proved why we stay in the fight, because actually there are pieces of this bill that we got better. We got the tax on solar and wind knocked out, and that's going to help with clean energy. We got a few different pieces and made them better. So that's reason number one. It's always the reminder. All of those calls matter. Reason number two is it's still not over. The bill has now got to go back over to the House. And there are a lot of Republicans who are feeling really squeamish about this bill at this point. So that means we got to stay in the fight. And reason number three is, yeah, they may do this now, but come November 2026, they're going to have to face the voters. They're going to have to face the people, the families of the people whose health care they took away. And they're going to have to explain exactly what they just did just now on the floor of the United States Senate and whatever they do next. So this is hard, but damn, we stay in the fight. We stay in it, not because it's an easy fight, not because we're guaranteed to win every time. We stay in it because it's the right fight.
Speaking of outrage, quite a lot of it over what's being called Alligator Alcatraz, the ICE detention facility which is being opened on a prior airstrip just outside the Everglades, about 45 miles west of downtown Miami. The outrage characterized the new ICE facility as some type of concentration camp opened up for the rounding up of brown people. Here's Joy Reid articulating just that.
I had to forget about him, but Ron DeSantis is still governor of Florida. He took the Comfy Couch hosts on a tour of the concentration camp that he's building in Florida in order to round up people, brown people, and throw them in a camp because he doesn't want them in Florida. Surprise, surprise.
President Trump traveled down to this Alligator Alcatraz to have a conversation with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis about the facility, how it was funded, how it will be operating. Governor DeSantis gave this specific land to the federal government given the low amount of traffic in the airport and the secluded location that is a little bit treacherous.
And it's a great honor to be deep in Florida, the Florida Everglades, to open America's newest migrant detention center. It's incredibly built, and you're seeing that yourself. That's why I said, let the press join us on our walk so they can see what's happening. It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate because I looked outside and that's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon. But very soon this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation. And a lot of these people are self-deporting back to their country where they came from. Quite a few. We're amazed at actually the number.
President Trump also articulated that some of the money that went into building this particular ICE facility came from President Biden administration FEMA money, which had been previously allocated towards luxury hotels for illegal immigrants, for example, in New York City. Check it out.
We took the FEMA money that Joe Biden allocated to pay for the free luxury hotel rooms, where he's paying hundreds of millions of dollars in New York City, and we used it to build this project, and Ron, it was just a little fraction of that money, the money they spent on that.
And finally, the University of Pennsylvania has agreed to a Title IX resolution by the Trump administration regarding the university's policies on trans athletes and women's sports. UPenn is the university in which the male Leah Thomas ended up competing against Riley Gaines and defeating a whole lot of women because this formerly William Thomas was given the ability to compete in women's athletic events. Under threat of lawsuit and removed federal funding, the university has now promised to restore the records and titles to affected female swimmers, adopt biological definitions of male and female, as well as apologize to individual female swimmers. Here's Secretary of Education Linda McMahon.
The university will be sending a personal apology to every female athlete who was forced to compete against the men.
Before you go, head down to the description and make sure you're subscribed to the Tony Kinnettcast. And join us tonight at 7 p.m. for a special Tony Kinnettcast episode about the increase in Islamic violence and terror here inside the United States. You won't want to miss it. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's Top News in 10. Take care.